replacement, quite a hard person to replace, I guess. So us stumbling across Booker was very lucky, but it was just so funny how it all sort of happened because Booker had been right under our nose the entire time, where she, we'd been friends with Booker for several years, like for a good almost 10 years, I want to say. And she'd always like followed the band and known us. Like she's from Perth and has been good friends with us for quite a while. And then only like when we were struggling to find a keyboardist, I think Nick was out partying with Booker one night and just happened to jokingly mention the notion of her possibly joining the band after she mentioned that she'd been playing piano sort of her life. And then I guess that sort of eventuated, and she ended up jumping on board. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys just put out a new album, Worlds Apart, and it's your first one with Rise Records.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Worlds Apart. What's different about this record compared to Old Souls and Never Bloom?
Well, it's just a different kind of vibe, I think. I think the guitar playing in this album has definitely stepped up quite a bit. I've sort of experimented with a sort of different delivery of my vocals and screams. I think the way that we're integrating the female clean vocals and our choice of melodies is different from previous albums. Old Souls was kind of like a haunted house vibe, whereas Never Bloom was, it was brutal, but at the same time had the sort of delicate piano sitting over the top. With this, I think it's more a refined sort of mesh of bringing all those elements together in a much tidier way, and thematically also it being it has more of a sort of spacey, ethereal vibe, I guess.
That's all right. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. I like that kind of vibe because I've been hearing it a lot off the songs like Fireworks, Vortex, Power, Overwhelming. Who's in charge of writing most of these lyrics?
Most of I do all the lyrics, yeah.
Where do most of the lyrical content comes from? Because if I can interject something here, the first track on here, the first movement, I see it as making the first move when you want to be with somebody, you're making the first move.
Yeah, it is kind of like that, but I think it's also a musical term. Like the first movement would be like the first song that a conductor would play in his barrage of songs. I have to look into that again. I can't remember the exact term, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a classical music term. But yes, it is also that, and it's also the first movement because it's the first track on the album. So I don't know, it works in a number of ways. But yeah. Influences for this album have been quite different from previous albums. Like on that song in particular, Eminem was a huge influence, as was like David Bowie and Morrissey from the Smiths, a bunch of stuff. So yeah, it's a couple of different influences lyrically for me on this album for sure.
And you got the first single out called Fireworks, and what's the reception been like for these new songs, especially with the new direction you're trying to go for with this new album?
Well, I think it's been overall really quite positive. I mean, obviously we're constantly changing and adapting our sound, and when a band goes through a sound change like that, it can quite often bands can take it as quite a hit. It can be quite detrimental to the longevity of the fan base. But a lot of people have sort of like stayed with us for the ride and embraced it with open arms. Even some people saying that it is their preferred of our albums, even having followed us since our first one. So I think overall it's been like a huge success, and we're stoked with just how open-minded our fans have been coming into this album.
Well, I'm sure the fans really loved it, like you said. And like I mentioned before, this is your first record with Rise Records. What made you want to go with Rise Records after your previous two records with Roadrunner?
Well, actually, we're still with Roadrunner in Australia. So we're signed with Roadrunner in Australia, and then Rise just have us for all other territories outside of that. So we're still technically with Roadrunner. Rise Records, just honestly, they expressed their interest to us based on our previous content, which I might add. So, when they were, expressing their interest in signing us, they were like, this is awesome. It's like Thy Art Is Murder meets Cradle of Filth, which was obviously, you know, referencing the sound of our first album, Neverbloom. So when people, you know, say things like, you know, oh, you know, Rise has impacted their sound or whatever, you know, they have absolutely no part in the writing process whatsoever. Just to clarify for people, they actually wanted us to, I guess, continue with the sound that we were founded on. But yeah, but they've been nothing but supportive, and we've been stoked with Rise so far. Yeah, they've been very like hands-on with communicating with us and getting things organised for the album release and everything. So yeah, we've been stoked with Rise.
Yeah. So you're now doing this U.S. tour, and how has it been going so far? Has America truly embraced you as the deathcore or the symphonic metal band of the future? Have they really said, "Wow, we gotta tell people to go see these guys next time they come around"?
I mean, it's hard to say that. We've had a lot of positive response from the people that we've spoken to. You know, everyone seems to have really enjoyed the set and stuff like that. Obviously, we're still building over here. I mean, this is only our third tour in the States, first two of which we were just, you know, an opening band on both tour packages. So to come over here and play, you know, be able to play a headliner show after being here just twice, and to still have, you know, people rocking up to the shows and coming out, is pretty unreal for us. So, I mean, so far the support has been overwhelming for us in the States and North America, and we've been pretty ecstatic about it. But I mean, whether or not, you know, it marks anything of the future over here for us, it remains to be seen, I guess.
Well, I'm sure the future will look bright for you guys if you keep making good stuff like this.
That's the goal.
So, as an artist, as a musician,
yeah.
In case y'all are wondering, somebody's having a heart attack in the back. Who is your influence as a musician? Who do you look up to?
I guess my biggest influences would have to be... Eminem was a big influence for sure. Chino from Deftones, Morrissey, and then in terms of heavier vocalists, you know, coming from Australia, Winston McCall was always a huge hero for me, I think. Mitch Lucker, Frankie from Amur, for sure. There's just so many. Brandon from Bleeding Through. Even there's just quite a lot of influences. I think, like, in terms of, I guess, like, coming out with a vocal sound, or like, you know, listening the bands that I was listening to, I guess, when I was sort of shaping the sound of my vocals, a lot of that was for my highs, like bands like Belphegor and Dark Funeral. So I was listening to a lot of that and kind of trying to work out how I wanted my highs to sound, and then for lows, I guess, Frankie would be a big one, or Behemoth. Yeah. That's fine.
All right, that's awesome. So now that you're doing this tour in the U.S., what are you guys' plans for the rest of the year? Can you go into detail of what you guys got going on?
So after this US tour, we're doing a headliner tour in all the other markets. So we're going straight home, we've got 10 days off, and then we're doing an Australian headliner tour. And I think 3 weeks following that, then we will be doing a European headliner tour, which we're stoked on that tour. So for the Australian one, we're bringing Wage War over from the States, which we're really stoked about, and they've been killing it with their new album. So we're super stoked to facilitate, I guess, their debut in Australia. It's really exciting. And then on the European tour, we'll be bringing Novelists, who I think they're a French progressive metalcore band. They're really cool. I think they've got a new album coming out very shortly. And then Cursed Earth, who are actually from our hometown Perth, which is a very tiny sort of city, I guess. It's a pretty it's a small scene. It's intimate. Everyone sort of knows each other. So, you know, they've just come out with, I think, a new EP. And it's been received really well. They've signed with Unified, and things seem to be really working out with them. So it's like a really cool feeling to be able to bring some people from our home turf to Europe with us and facilitate their debut in Europe as well. Yeah.
Well, I would have to definitely check out those guys if you can vouch for them and be metalhead, be just metal awesome.
For sure.
And speaking of Australia, it seems like in the recent, since the early 2010s when it first started, it seems like a lot of heavy metal bands have been coming out of Australia and have been really making a huge splash in the U.S. circuit. I mean, from Airborne to you guys to Parkway Drive. How does it feel to be in the collective fold of Australian metalheads that are just making a huge dent over here in the States?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty exciting. I think it's cool. Like I'm period in time, you would go on almost any Australian metal bands like YouTube videos, and there would be like the top most liked comment would just be praising all the bands that happened to be coming out of Australia at the time. So I think it's a pretty exciting sort of music to be a pretty exciting movement, I guess, to be a part of. I guess you could call it a movement because like as you said, after 2010, like so many of the bands that started killing it were from Australia. So yeah, we're stoked, and I guess it's cool to be part of, to be considered amongst a bunch of such talented bands.
And of course, you would have to agree that it all started with a 5-piece group called AC/DC who opened the doors for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, they started the whole pub rock type thing, and yeah, they're local legends for sure in Australia. So yeah.
Okay. All right, we got time for one more question. This is one I've always asked my guests. So you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you're not. You sure you're ready?
I'm not sure I'm ready, but I'll do my best to be ready.
All right. Who do you prefer, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
I'm definitely a Beatles man through and through. Yeah.
It's so funny. A lot of metalheads will prefer the Beatles over the Rolling Stones. I always say, I hope they always assume they go for the Stones because they're heavier.
I think the Stones was more. I think the Beatles' music is a little more timeless than the Stones. I think with the Stones, you kind of had to be there at the time because, I mean, with what the direction music's headed in since that time, metal and rock and roll has come like a long way. Beatles songs are just kind of timeless pop songs that you could cover over and over again and revamp, and they'll never get old. It's a bit different, but yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Beatles will always be in my heart. I grew up on Beatles 1. That was the first record that really got me into them, and I went back and listened to their old stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But me, I always liked the Stones because I loved their take on the blues because they were influenced by guys like Muddy Waters and Walter Piggins, if I got that name right, and Howlin' Wolf.
Howlin' Wolf, yeah.
I mean, remember, they actually named themselves after a Muddy Waters song.
Yeah.
Like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, my surrogate grandfather actually opened for them back in the 1960s when they first started out.
Oh, right. Crazy.
Yeah, it was a state fair. They did 3 shows, and a funny thing, they kept playing the same clothes that day, and they were just sweating up the joint. I think it was like a hot day.
Yeah.
And at the last show, my grandfather noticed it, and then their manager said, "Hey guys, you starting to smell. Would you mind changing clothes so that way you don't stick out there?" It's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then they just go out there and they're wearing each other's clothes. So I keep saying this.
That's very rock and roll.
Yeah, you can't get more rock and roll. It really that's the start of it all, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, hey, Sean, thank you very much for taking time out of your really hectic schedule to talk with on Civil Revolt. We appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me, dude. Appreciate it.
No problem. This was Sean Harmanis of Make Them Suffer, lead singer. And be sure to go get their new album, Worlds Apart, out in stores everywhere from Rise Records. You can get it on iTunes as well. And be sure to follow Make Them Suffer on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and their official website at...
it's just makethemsuffer.com.au.
There you go.